Do the disciples of your Tion Yun sect need protection? Does that mean the disciples of my great Luo sword sect die in vain? Among the 12 sword prodigies, only Qin Long survived. The rest were all killed by this Wang Lin. Today, I won't use my strength to bully the weak. As long as Wang Lin can withstand 3 of my sword chi, we can wipe the slate clean regarding the events of that year. If your Tion Yunzi tries to stop me again, I will do everything I can to continue our previous battle. Ling Tianho's face was filled with malice. Though he spoke to Tion Yunzi, his gaze was locked on Wang Lin. Earlier, you mentioned that I am not qualified to possess the token. I dare ask, Senior, how many sword strikes can you withstand under the sword venerable sword chi? Wang Lin looked at the massive old man. The old man, resembling a mountain of flesh, looked extremely gloomy. He snorted coldly but said nothing. However, a murderous glint flashed in his eyes. Wang Lin smiled slightly and turned his gaze to Ling Tianho, calmly saying, Please, sword venerable, teach me. Ling Tianho swung his right hand, and one of the 4 primordial spirit swords flew out immediately. This sword flickered with light and dark, emitting a faint ghostly glow. In a flash, a sword chi shot out from it. The sword chi was like a rainbow. With Ling Tianho's cultivation, the life-saving sword chi he left for his disciples in the land of demonic spirits had been immensely powerful, let alone now, when he was personally wielding it. The sword chi, upon appearing, seemed to transform into a sword dragon, roaring as it charged straight at Wang Lin. The sky echoed with thunderous booms, as if unable to bear the sword chi's path. The disciples of the great Luo sword sect were all elated, staring intently. Just as the sword chi was about to tear Wang Lin's body apart, a gleam of light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. His right fist swung toward the void. With a massive explosion, the sky before Wang Lin's fist began to collapse. As the sword chi neared, Wang Lin's fist collided with it in midair. Boom, boom, boom. Several earth-shattering explosions erupted. Wang Lin staggered back 2 steps, looking calmly at Ling Tianho, and slowly saying, the first one. Ling Tianho's sword chi shattered, forming a storm that swept across the area, but it was quickly dispelled by Tion Yunzi's sweeping sleeves, vanishing into thin air. Tion Yunzi glanced at Wang Lin, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Ling Tianho's eyes flashed with cold light. Without any hesitation, he swung his right hand again. The primordial spirit sword that had been left behind let out a piercing sword cry and, with a sudden shock, its body rushed madly toward Wang Lin. In the next instant, Wang Lin laughed heartily and clenched his right fist. A tremendous force surged from his forehead into his hand. Immediately, crystal-like points began to spread out, and as Wang Lin's fist was thrown, the points followed, crashing forward. At the same time, a cold glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. He had no intention of acting low-key now that he was back on the Tion Yun star. Here, everything had to be determined by strength. If he wanted to return to the land of demonic spirits, if he wanted the right to possess the token, if he wanted the recognition of the old monster of Tion Yun star, everything depended on this battle today. With his foresight, Wang Lin had already thoroughly analyzed everything on his journey. After sending out his punch, he slapped his storage pouch with his left hand and shouted, 3 9 swords. As soon as the words were spoken, a series of silver rainbows erupted furiously from Wang Lin's storage pouch. Each rainbow emitted dazzling silver light, and countless souls emerged from within, their anguished wails filling the air. As the 27 flying swords appeared, Wang Lin pointed a finger. In an instant, the swords surged forward, streaking toward Ling Tianho amidst the shrill cries of the souls. This scene stunned even Tion Yunzi. He could calculate all the outcomes, but not the process. He had only anticipated Wang Lin's return after his cultivation had greatly increased, but he could not predict the true extent of Wang Lin's abilities after his return. Although he could sense several forces within Wang Lin's forehead, 3 of them even made him wary. I knew this child would return, but I never predicted the reasons behind it. His return to Tion Yun star is definitely with some support, and the vermilion bird mark on his forehead is one such support. The middle-aged woman, resembling a village maiden, was also shocked. Her eyes widened as she immediately recognized the extraordinary nature of the 27 swords. She was a master of artifact forging and thought to herself, the materials of these 27 swords are already exceptional. They contain endless killing intent, clearly having been forged over countless years in a place of mass slaughter. Any one of them could become a peerless weapon. And now, as they fuse into a sword array, their power. The middle-aged woman inhaled deeply. The elder sitting on the gourd suddenly leaped to his feet, staring at Wang Lin with wide eyes, a storm brewing in his heart. This is definitely not early glimpse of nirvana. As for the mountain-like old man, his mind also trembled. He stared blankly at the 27 swords and Wang Lin's cold expression. A cold sweat beaded on his forehead. I underestimated this person. Ling Tianho's title was Sword Venerable, and his mastery and insight into the sword were truly remarkable. The moment he saw the 27 flying swords, his eyes immediately sparkled with excitement. Such flying swords, such a sword formation. Wang Lin, you are worthy of battling me. Ling Tianho waved his hands, and the remaining 3 of his primordial spirit swords immediately flew out, spinning rapidly. Sword chi surged through the air, and in an instant, a sword net formed, wildly enveloping everything in its path. The 27 flying swords, under Wang Lin's control through his divine sense, caught up with the previous fist wind and turned into a sword storm with it at the center. Inside the storm, countless formations were embedded, and upon charging forward, they collided violently with Ling Tianho's 4 rotating primordial spirit swords. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst the deafening sounds of explosions, one flying sword after another was knocked back, but the sword storm continued to pound against Ling Tianho's primordial spirit swords, forcing them to retreat one after another. Each time a sword was knocked away, it would hover around Wang Lin's body. After a moment, all 27 swords retreated, and the ancient god punch Wang Lin had delivered earlier exploded with overwhelming force. With a resounding impact, Ling Tianho's 4 primordial spirit swords trembled and fell back. To anyone observing, it seemed as though the 2 were evenly matched. But Wang Lin knew that Ling Tianho had not yet used his divine abilities. He was only attacking with ordinary sword techniques, not showing mercy. In Ling Tianho's eyes, even though Wang Lin was in the early glimpse of nirvana stage, he was not worthy of forcing Ling Tianho to use his divine powers. Ling Tianho's eyes revealed a strange look, but it vanished almost instantly. Laughing loudly, he threw aside his previous 3-sword agreement, made a hand seal in an arc, and with his long, gray hair standing on end without any wind, he released a strange glint from his eyes. He muttered, "You are worthy of making me use my divine abilities. My divine powers are limited to 3 words. Bright, penetrating, shattering. Bright sword, first move, sword forged in blood." At these words, the surrounding cultivators erupted in astonishment. Ling Tianho's reputation was immense, and as the head of a sect, his divine abilities were renowned. Everyone knew that Ling Tianho had only one true enemy in his life, Tion Yunzis. His divine powers were rarely used, and every time they were, it was in battle with Tion Yunzis. But now, Ling Tianho was using his divine abilities against Wang Lin. Even if Wang Lin were to lose, his name would be immediately established. With a low shout, Ling Tianho pointed forward with his right hand. His 4 primordial spirit swords merged together, transforming into an illusory sword shadow that radiated a scorching heat. It then shifted from being illusory into a liquid-like form, gleaming with colorful light under the yellow sun, speeding straight towards Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. Taking a few steps back, he slapped his storage pouch and shouted softly, 5-9 sword formation. Instantly, silver beams flew out of the storage pouch, intertwining with the 27 swords around him. A total of 45 7-foot-long swords spun wildly, forming a sword vortex. As Wang Lin's long hair swirled, he clasped his hands together and pointed fiercely forward. Sword-severing technique. At the moment of this strike, the speed at which Wang Lin's primordial energy circulated reached its peak. Waves of sword-severing techniques blended into the sword vortex. With a mighty tremor, the entire vortex condensed and charged directly forward. This was the sword from the Slaughter Domain realm, which Wang Lin had already refined during his journey to the Tion Yun sect, completely altering its external appearance. Unless someone from the Slaughter Domain realm was present, no one would recognize its origin. Now, this sword chi vortex carried the immense power of countless sword-severing techniques. It crashed forward and instantly collided with Ling Tianho's divine abilities. The heavens and earth seemed to change color as the very fabric of the universe reversed. A deafening rumble echoed violently throughout the world. Amidst the constant crashes and explosions, the booming sounds replaced all other noises in the world. Had Tion Yunzis not used his arms to block the outward force of this impact, the Destiny Star would likely have collapsed under the force. After the impact, Wang Lin's body shot backward at high speed. All 45 flying swords remained undamaged but dimmed, circling around Wang Lin as he retreated. Facing him, Ling Tianho's unified, multiformed sword trembled and then shattered, returning to its original 4 forms. Ling Tianho remained motionless, his eyes shining brightly as he laughed loudly and said, Wang Lin, your grudge with my great Luo sword sect is hereby resolved. I no longer need the token. Since you have obtained it, it is your destiny. When the time comes, you will have a share in the immortal abode. Ling Tianho turned and took a step forward. His disciples from the great Luo sword sect followed, still confused but immediately trailing behind him. As sword light streaked by, they gradually disappeared into the distance. Ling Tianho, there's deep meaning in this move. Wang Lin glanced at Ling Tianho's retreating figure, his eyes flashing with contemplation. The surroundings fell into complete silence. Whether it was the disciples of the Tion sect or the few ancient beings accompanying them, all were staring in shock. Wang Lin actually has the strength to battle Ling Tianho. Bai Wei's eyes were filled with excitement. Even now, she could hardly believe what she had just witnessed. Zhao Xingsha's face turned ashen, and his gaze toward Wang Lin was filled with terror, yet he dared not entertain even a hint of malicious intent. As for the fourth elder of the purple faction, who had remained indifferent to everything, the confusion in her eyes gradually faded as she looked at Wang Lin, a peculiar glint beginning to appear in her gaze. If he can help me. The woman bit her lip, her mind made up. It wasn't just them. Almost everyone who had known Wang Lin in the past was now in a state of stunned disbelief. In their eyes, the Wang Lin of years ago and the white-robed figure before them were slowly merging into one. Wang Lin did not retract the 45 flying swords surrounding him. His gaze swept across the crowd and landed on the burly elder like a mountain. Calmly, he spoke, Senior, do I have the qualifications? The elder like a mountain remained silent for a moment before snorting. He cupped his hands toward Tion Yunzi and said, Daoist Tion Yunzi, I still have a batch of pills to refine. I won't disturb you any longer. As he spoke, he commanded his 4 disciples, return to the mountain. The 4 disciples quickly complied, lifting his massive body and gradually retreating. The elder standing on the gourd took a meaningful glance at Wang Lin, smiling, Friend Wang, you've hidden yourself well. I am Qiming An. If you have time, feel free to visit me at Dreamstar. He cupped his hands toward Tion Yunzi and left. Along with him left the emaciated elder who resembled a corpse. From beginning to end, he wore a cold expression and, upon leaving, did not bid Tion Yunzi farewell. He simply soared into the sky. The last to leave was the beautiful woman who looked like a village maiden. She smiled at Wang Lin, saying, Friend Wang, your flying swords carry a strong murderous aura, but the aura is too intense, making them hard to control. If you have time, you may want to visit Violet Miststar. As she spoke, she bowed to Tion Yunzi and led her 4 female disciples away. As they departed, the woman in pink turned toward Wang Lin, her eyes sparkling as she flashed a smile and said, My master is skilled in weapon crafting, and the cost isn't much. You little girl. The beautiful woman chuckled, and the other 3 disciples around her also burst into laughter. However, few noticed that one of them, a green-clad woman, glanced at Wang Lin with a distinct look just before they left. Perhaps he has already forgotten my name. After all, back then, it was just a small thing to him, but to me, it was a life-saving grace. The woman sighed softly. Sister Qianqin, what's wrong? The woman in pink asked gently. Qianqin shook her head without speaking. At Tion Yunzi's command, the members of the Tion Yun sect around them began to disperse. The entire square was soon empty, leaving only Wang Lin and Tion Yunzi. After everyone had left, Wang Lin, his expression calm, turned to Tion Yunzi. The master and disciple, separated for centuries, now stood face to face once more. What are your plans? They remained silent for a long time, before Tion Yunzi spoke slowly. Disciple wishes to enter the land of demonic spirits. Wang Lin said respectfully. You have the qualifications. Whether it's Luo Tion's True Thunder Immortal or one of the Zhuke lineage of the 4 Saints sect, as I know, in this generation, including you, there are only 3 of them. Tion Yunzi said calmly, his hands behind his back as he spoke slowly. Wang Lin fell silent. He hadn't known of the Zhuke lineage, but upon hearing this, his mind stirred, though his expression remained unreadable. The Violet Forest Pavilion still holds a place for you. Tion Yunzi's voice echoed from afar. Wang Lin looked at the sky, where Tion Yunzi had departed, his thoughts deepening. Ling Qinho's actions are full of significance. Even during our battle, though he used his ultimate divine ability, he didn't go all out. Wang Lin speculated. Though he couldn't fully grasp Ling Tianho's intentions, he could sense a few things. As for Tion Yunzi, I can't see through him. Wang Lin had always found it hard to read Tion Yunzis' true thoughts. Even though he had caught a glimpse of some clues, they quickly seemed to dissolve into alternate explanations, leaving everything a mystery. I can't see through him, Wang Lin sighed inwardly. There was always a veil of mist surrounding Tion Yunzi. Every time he met him, it seemed like a different person. In fact, Wang Lin had suspected such an arrangement for his arrival long before. But now, standing before Tion Yunzi, he felt something was off. Everything had gone too smoothly, as if everything was unfolding exactly as Wang Lin had anticipated. Frowning, Wang Lin looked around the familiar Tion Yun sect. After a long silence, he began walking toward the Violet Forest Pavilion. There was only one path leading from the square to the mountain peak of the Purple faction. The mountain trail was narrow, with steep steps and towering stones on both sides, the air thick with lush greenery. At that moment, the setting sun cast a cool breeze over the mountain, rustling the leaves, while the sound of distant flowing water reached Wang Lin's ears on the wind. The path that Wang Lin once walked many years ago, he now treads again after hundreds of years, his heart filled with deep emotion. It feels like nothing has changed since then. Wang Lin walked slowly, his steps unhurried. As he continued on, a pair of cultivators dressed in blue robes, a man and a woman, walked toward him from the end of the path, engaged in quiet conversation. These cultivators were of modest cultivation, both at the infant metamorphosis stage. With the wind, their voices gradually reached Wang Lin's ears. "Junior sister, I heard that in 7 days, the Ghost Time Market will open again. Many of our fellow cultivators have already headed there." Ghost Time Market? Is that the one where the immortal technique was auctioned off years ago and gained widespread fame? The woman's voice was filled with astonishment. Exactly, that Ghost Time Market. The immortal technique that was auctioned back then caused a huge stir. I heard that even some of the most powerful old experts made a special trip to see it. Immortal techniques. With our current status, we can only acquire incomplete and low-grade ones. But the one from back then was said to be an extremely rare, complete technique. This time, the Ghost Time Market is reopening, and it's rumored that a mysterious item will be up for auction. Sigh. What does that have to do with us? Everything at the Ghost Time Market is priced unimaginably high. Besides, entry requires an invitation. That's true, we may not have the qualifications to enter the auction, but we can still visit the free trade area of the Ghost Time Market. The man in blue said, pulling out a jade slip from his storage pouch. This jade slip was pitch black, with a mysterious eye-like symbol at its center, emitting a faint red glow, making it look eerie. Ghost Eye invitation jade. The woman's eyes brightened. Before the man in blue could reply with pride, he suddenly froze in place, his eyes widening as he looked ahead. It was Wang Lin coming down from above. The woman noticed her senior brother's change in demeanor and also looked up, seeing Wang Lin. With their cultivation levels, they had not sensed Wang Lin's presence until now. Wang Lin, his expression gentle, approached the pair of cultivators. When he got closer, he glanced at the man in blue and smiled slightly, saying, seniorly, "Long time no see." "Why you?" The man in blue was stunned. He had just returned to the Tion Yun sect and didn't know that Wang Lin had returned. The moment he saw Wang Lin, something about him seemed familiar, but now, hearing Wang Lin's words, his body shuddered. Wang Lin. The man in blue took several steps back, fear and shock in his eyes. Wang Lin smiled lightly. He didn't know the blue-robed man's name, only that his surname was Li. They had met once at the Tion Yun sect many years ago, and Wang Lin vaguely remembered the mocking, disdainful look that man had given him. Looking at him now, the man's cultivation had grown, from the early infant metamorphosis stage to the middle stage. Not bothering with the man any longer, Wang Lin walked between the two of them and gradually walked away. Senior brother. His name is Wang Lin? That name sounds familiar. The woman turned back to look at Wang Lin's retreating figure, confused. He's really back. For him to appear here, our master must already know about it. Could it be that the events of the past have been forgiven by master? Just now, I couldn't sense any spiritual energy fluctuations from him. He seemed like an ordinary person, but when he walked past me, I felt my mind tremble, and my spiritual power seemed to quiver, almost collapsing. The blue-robed youth's face turned pale as he grabbed his junior sister's arm and quickly walked away. Senior brother, what's wrong? The woman asked, puzzled. He's Wang Lin, the 7th elder of the Purple faction of our Tion Yun sect. Junior sister, don't you remember him? The blue-robed man said hurriedly. The woman froze for a moment, her face changing at once. Is he the one who, years ago, killed countless people in the land of demonic spirits, rivers of blood, and was relentlessly pursued by master and many elders, yet managed to escape. The demon Wang Lin? Far in the distance, Wang Lin smiled bitterly. The rumors about him, over the centuries, had gradually changed as they spread. With a quiet sigh, he walked out of the Tion Yunzis gates. Ahead of him stood a towering mountain peak, its summit shrouded in mist, with purple light radiating from it. This was where the purple faction disciples resided. Tion Yunzis, Purple Peak. As Wang Lin gazed at the familiar peak, a haze seemed to cloud his vision, as if he were seeing a young man, newly arrived from Vermilion Birdstar, stepping by step toward the peak, steadily establishing himself here. In silence, a mountain breeze blew by, its chill faint but enough to take away the warmth on his face, leaving only coldness. On Purple Peak, many plants swayed in the wind, and from afar, it was hard to tell if it was the mountain moving or if it was his heart in motion. With the mountain breeze beneath his feet, Wang Lin continued his ascent, the steps seeming to stretch toward the heavens. Slowly, he reached the summit, having encountered no other cultivators along the way, only the sound of the wind howling past him. Other than the sound of the wind, there was no other sound to be heard. The mountaintop remained unchanged, just as it had been in the past. In the distance, a corner of an exquisitely crafted pavilion peeked out. If one looked closely, they could make out a plaque hanging there, with just a single character visible. Purple. As Wang Lin moved forward, that exposed corner was slowly covered once again. Only when he passed the obstruction did the familiar pavilion from his past fully appear before him. Purple Forest Pavilion. Do you remember? This place was once known as the Purple Cloud Pavilion. Wang Lin stood silently for a moment. He then pushed open the door to the Purple Forest Pavilion, and a musty smell immediately hit his face. The furnishings inside remained the same as before, with little change. If there was any, it was the thick layer of dust that had settled everywhere, on the table, the wooden chairs, and even the bed. All of them were covered in dust. The oil lamp on the table had long since run out of oil. Wang Lin raised his finger and gently swiped it across the dusty table, immediately leaving a deep mark. He glanced at the dust on his finger and waved his hand forward. A soft breeze immediately swept across the room. The wind appeared out of thin air in front of Wang Lin, lifting clouds of dust as it passed over the table, the wooden chairs, the bed, and every corner of the room, almost like a storm had appeared inside the pavilion. Yet strangely, the storm only lifted the dust. Everything else remained untouched, and even the paper windows made no sound as the wind passed. After a few moments, Wang Lin turned his palm upward and clenched his hand. In an instant, the storm in the pavilion seemed to reverse, with the wind swirling from all directions toward the center of his palm. In no time, the storm inside the pavilion vanished. In his palm, a deep gray whirlpool formed, filled with all the dust from the room. With a casual flick of his right hand, the windows of the pavilion opened on their own, and the gray whirlpool floated out, disappearing into the night sky as though it had swept away centuries of time and buried all past memories. Everything inside the room became fresh and new. Outside, the sky was darkening as the sun set, casting shadows over the room and making Wang Lin's figure appear somewhat blurry. He sighed softly as he walked toward the nearby purple wood cabinet. He remembered that this was where the lamp oil had been kept. Upon opening it, he indeed found a small bottle containing a little brown oil. After adding oil to the lamp, Wang Lin pointed at it, and a tiny flame flickered to life. With a whoosh, the flame flared up, dispelling the shadows in the room. But at the moment the light ignited, a mountain breeze blew in from outside, through the window, causing the flame to flicker and sway. Wang Lin's shadow inside the room twisted along with it. Wang Lin's expression shifted. He focused on the flickering flame, and it was as though a bolt of lightning flashed across his mind. His eyes suddenly gleamed with realization. The wind blows, and the flame changes. In the wind, it's unpredictable, impossible to tell which is its true form. I understand now. Tion Yunzi is like this flame. The reason I always feel like he's different every time I see him is because this person is constantly changing. Like having thousands of incarnations, these thousands of incarnations exist within one body, and every moment, they alternate. This is why Tion Yunzi gives me such an elusive feeling. Wang Lin stared at the flickering flame, his face illuminated by the light, shifting between light and dark, but his eyes held clarity. In reality, the mountain hasn't moved, and the candlelight hasn't moved. What's moving is the wind. Wang Lin suddenly waved his right hand, and immediately all the windows in the room slammed shut with a series of loud thuds. With the mountain wind blocked out, no breeze entered the room. Without the wind, the flame slowly steadied, ceasing its wild flickering. However, as the oil burned down, it continued to sway gently. Wang Lin furrowed his brow, watching the flame. In its light, his expression shifted between light and dark, revealing an underlying glow. Something's wrong. The wind has stopped, but the flame is still moving. At this moment, Wang Lin didn't realize that his state was eerily similar to the Dao attainment process, except that he wasn't attaining his own Dao, but Tion Yunzis. He had known Tion Yunzi for hundreds of years, and with his cultivation level before, he couldn't detect any changes in Tion Yunzi. But now, he could faintly sense something unusual about him. There were too many secrets surrounding Tion Yunzi, and what worried Wang Lin the most was that he couldn't figure out the other's thoughts. Tion Yunzi is like this flame, ever-changing. Trying to find his original form is impossible, even when the wind is gone, Wang Lin said, furrowing his brow, his gaze fixed on the flickering flame. Time passed slowly, and unknowingly, it was already the third watch of the night. Outside, it was pitch black, with only the mournful mountain wind blowing, making a faint rustling sound as it hit the window paper. In the stillness of the night, the sound was clear and sharp. Wind moves, mountains move, fire moves. Wang Lin lifted his head, took a step forward, and immediately vanished from the room. When he reappeared, it was in the pitch-black sky. Below him was the purple peak of the Tianyun sect. On this night, the cold wind was fierce, the sky was overcast with thick clouds, and after the moonlight broke through the clouds, it barely illuminated the earth, making everything seem shrouded in darkness. As he pondered, Wang Lin raised his right hand and lightly waved it towards the sky. With this wave, there was a hint of the rule that he had once used when calling for rain. The dark clouds in the sky immediately began to swirl. A large mass of clouds transformed into fine raindrops that fell swiftly. Soon, the clouds dissipated, and the bright moonlight fell freely upon the earth. Bathed in moonlight, a shadow appeared behind the purple peak. The mountain wind blew through, and all the grass and trees on the purple peak moved, swaying with a rhythmic rustling sound. Looking at the peak, especially the large shadow behind it, the mountain seemed to sway along with the movement of the grass and trees. However, the shadow itself remained almost unchanged. This mountain hasn't moved. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with brilliance, and his mind seemed to rumble as though struck by a sudden revelation. He seemed to grasp a faint trace of something. The wind merely moves the surface, and the mountain only appears to move. In reality, it's my heart that moves. My heart stirs, so the mountain moves. Wang Lin's eyes grew clearer with understanding. His body flickered, and he returned to the room. Looking at the flickering candlelight, Wang Lin's aura gradually calmed, as if he had vanished from the world. If anyone were present, they would have seen the candle still gently swaying, with a faint crackling sound as it burned. However, to Wang Lin, the candlelight now seemed like a raging wave, violently shaking and changing in numerous ways. Gradually, it came to a complete stop, as if it had been frozen in place by a spell. At that moment, Wang Lin's heart trembled, and an expression of disbelief appeared in his eyes, almost unable to believe what he was seeing. His internal primordial force surged uncontrollably, spreading through every part of his body, and he could hear a constant thumping sound coming from within. It felt as though a martial artist had opened all his meridians, just like a mortal breaking through all limits. Even amidst this raging flow of primordial force, Wang Lin's third eye, located between his brows, silently appeared. A crack opened in it, but no red light emitted. Instead, it seemed to be absorbing something, causing Wang Lin's internal primordial force to move even faster. The speed had reached an unimaginable level, but Wang Lin felt no pain. At that moment, he seemed frozen, staring intently at the candle, the incredulity in his eyes reaching its peak. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. It was no longer the candlelight, but a very weak, tiny flame. This flame was the same one he had conjured with a simple finger movement. If that were all, it would not have shocked Wang Lin so much. But under his gaze, the flame, though seemingly still, was actually still moving. This movement was a reversal, as if a force surrounded the flame, causing it to dissipate in a way Wang Lin couldn't understand. Perhaps dissipate was the wrong word. More accurately, the flame was expanding, enlarging, and continuing to grow. Eventually, Wang Lin saw the deep mystery within the flame after it had magnified countless times. It was a collection of minute primordial force points. These points intertwined and collided in a specific way, and each collision sent out a hint of heat. At first glance, these primordial force points seemed disordered. But to Wang Lin, they were distinct. Whether crossing paths or colliding, each interaction contained a hidden rule. This is the rule of fire. Wang Lin muttered to himself, his eyes never once blinking, as he continued to stare at the candle. Can I go even deeper? Just as Wang Lin's thought emerged, the countless primordial force points suddenly enlarged, just like the flame had before, rapidly growing at an extreme speed until they became overwhelmingly massive. As these points continued to expand, wisps of thread-like matter began to swirl around. In that instant, Wang Lin's internal primordial force emitted a thunderous sound, and a sharp pain struck his brow. Immediately, he snapped back to full awareness. Cold sweat poured down from his forehead and soaked his clothes. His face turned pale, devoid of any color. Taking a deep breath, Wang Lin stared at the candlelight, murmuring, "What is that? Could it be the origin? I can explore that role, but this origin." I could only catch a fleeting glimpse before my body couldn't withstand it. Wang Lin remained silent for a moment before sitting cross-legged in meditation, closing his eyes. Time passed, and the dark hues outside the window gradually faded, slowly replaced by bright light. Just as dawn broke, Wang Lin opened his eyes, a gaze as if capable of penetrating all mysteries emanating from his eyes, landing on the door. "Seventh brother, may I come in?" A soft voice floated in from outside the loft. Breathing heavily, the door creaked open after a long pause, revealing a graceful woman in purple, who entered with her lower lip between her teeth. Though her beauty did not rival that of the stunning Lu Mei Hong Dai, she was still striking, albeit marred by time, her visage showing traces of a life lived. After she entered the room, she silently took a seat on a nearby chair, a vacant expression in her eyes, staring ahead without uttering a word. The room fell silent as Wang Lin closed his eyes and resumed his meditation. Suddenly, he sensed a faint trace of divine sense probing from the center of the purple-clad woman's brow. As the divine sense extended towards him, it approached at a slow pace, seemingly hesitant. At the moment the divine sense drew near, Wang Lin opened his eyes, a flash of brilliance darting through them. The divine sense trembled instantly, retreating at the speed of light, but it halted midair, frozen in place. The woman in purple was pale. She could feel that if her divine sense moved even slightly, it would be devoured by him in an instant. Wang Lin fixed his gaze on the woman, releasing his binding on her divine sense, allowing the intangible energy to return to her body. In Wang Lin's eyes, she was an open book, her true cultivation suppressed beneath 6 seals. What appeared before him was only a late stage of infant metamorphosis. In his earlier days, Wang Lin would have never detected such subtleties, but now, with his current level of cultivation, one glance was all it took to see through her entirely. Wang Lin frowned slightly and spoke slowly. "What is it, fourth senior sister?" The woman opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but ultimately fell silent. "Since fourth senior sister has no urgent business, then I shall not see you off," he said, flicking his sleeve. A gentle breeze swept through, causing the purple-clad woman to shiver as if swept forward like a whisper of wind toward the door. As the door swung open, she hesitated for a moment before speaking decisively. "Wang Lin, you've reached the second step of your cultivation. Are you truly not afraid of potential dangers arising within the Tion sect?" A flicker passed through Wang Lin's eyes as he reached out with his right hand, pulling her back inside as he calmly asked, "What do you mean, senior sister?" The purple-clad woman gritted her teeth, looking up at Wang Lin and whispered, "Years ago, you fled just in time. If you had not left the Tion sect for 100 years, you would have mysteriously vanished by now. You must have noticed that within the Tion sect, apart from our master, none of the thousands of inner and outer disciples, even among us core disciples of the 7 factions, have reached the deficiency level." Wang Lin maintained a tranquil expression, his gaze fixed on her without a word. As soon as one person breaks through to achieving deficiency, they mysteriously disappear within a year. This is a taboo in the Tion sect, something you were too inexperienced to know back then. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. The purple-clad woman continued to look at him. After saying this, noticing no sign of emotion from Wang Lin, she felt a weight in her heart and gritted her teeth. "I know you might not believe me. I, Zhao Shiming, came to the mountain at the age of 7 and have cultivated in the Tion sect for 1,000 years." Before she could finish, Wang Lin shook his head to interrupt. "Aren't you worried about being found out by Master, sharing all this here? Our Master meditates every hour, sealing the 5 senses. Unless a matter of great importance arises, she will not awaken. This habit has persisted for thousands of years," Zhao Shiming replied, her voice a bit urgent. "Wang Lin, everything I've said is true." After a brief silence, Wang Lin glanced at Zhao Shiming and spoke in a low voice. Is that the reason you have 6 seals within you? Rather than being shocked by Wang Lin's piercing gaze, she wore a bitter smile and said, besides this method, what choice do I have? My life soul is in Master's hands. I cannot leave. Even if I try, with just one flicker of Master's mind, my life soul would shatter, leading to my demise wherever I may go. Many of our fellow disciples have chosen to seal themselves like me. Among them, the Crimson Faction's Sun Hong has the deepest cultivation. She bears 11 seals, forced to remain at the mid-disciplinary level. Her insights are even hindered by her own interference, aligning her insights with her cultivated realm. In reality, had she unsealed her restrictions, she could reach the late glimpse of Nirvana stage in a very short time. Then there's the Scarlet Faction's Lu Hai. If he were to unseal, he would immediately reach peak Yang fulfillment. These are just the ones I am aware of, but I believe there are still many hidden talents among the 7 factions. Despite our profound cultivation levels, we dare not unseal, nor fully unleash our power, for once the seals are broken, even if resealed, we may mysteriously vanish within a year. Even if we lose our cultivation in a battle against others, those of us who have hidden our true powers will still disappear. As far as I know, our master has been enlightened for tens of thousands of years, and while many disciples were numerous, none have been heard from recently. W.